One day.
Hi, I'm Rob, Mid-Atlantic District VP for CSLT. Thank you for stopping in for this session of Leadership Academy 2021. We hope you enjoy the great content here, so let's get started. We've searched high and low. We've gone up to the highest peaks of the mountains and to the lows of the valleys, on the high seas. We've searched everywhere to bring you the absolute best in entertainment today. And we found Jeff Porter to talk to us about membership. So without any further ado, whatever that means, and I can't even spell it, I give you Jeff. Jeff, take it away.
All right, thanks, Rob. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully, my name is Jeff Porter. I'll be your instructor today. A little about me. I was president of the Bryn Maw mainliners for a long time. I finally found a guy to take over for that. He was a scoutmaster. No one better than a scoutmaster to lead a bunch of unruly boys. But anyways, I was membership VP for as well during the last 10 years. And the first year that I was membership VP, the first 2 years, we added 16, but we lost 20. And I'll get into that later. And it just was like, it was both the yin and the yang of membership. And I've discovered, because I was also the district membership guy for a year, that this is not unusual. So we'll talk about that. I won a bunch of awards with Bryn Maw, which is great. The same year I got Rookie of the Year, I was named president at the same thing. So they kind of saw me coming, apparently. Relative newbie, loving every minute. I sing in a quartet. My quartet retired the Atlantic Division Novice Quartet Trophy. There is no trophy, but we retired it anyways because the Atlantic Division doesn't exist anymore. So we're still the reigning Atlantic Division Novice Quartet winners from many years ago. Been to Harmony Brigade, went to Harmony University, Harmony College East, webmaster, Facebook guy, class of blah, blah, blah. So my day job is I'm self-employed, engineer by training, but do a lot of stuff in the digital science world. Have 3 grown kids. They're in college, so college bills are like, thank God I started 529s when they were young. Start that, Josh. I love golf and I love CrossFit, which is crazy. So let's dive into it. So there was some really interesting data. You remember I said that when I was a membership guy, we lost a bunch of guys, but we gained a bunch of guys. So there's a lot of what I call treading water here. So when Ig Jakovic was the head of the Mid-Atlantic District, he was the president, they did an enormous amount of telephone interviews with people that were not renewing to find out what the heck was going on. And more than 40% of the non-renewers were basically aging out. They just weren't able to participate at the same level anymore. And 45% of the non-renewers were relatively younger guys with very little background. They generally got a new job somewhere, got married, got moved, blah, blah, blah. They were a student when they joined, life changes. So, they weren't quite to the point where their life had settled down yet and they were quite mobile. So that kind of is interesting in that, there's I call it a bimodal distribution. Okay, I'm an engineer by training. That means there's 2 humps. If you look at age and population of the demographics of barbershopper, you've got all these young guys in the first hump because there's a whole bunch of youth and harmony stuff going on. A cappella singing is a big thing with young folks these days. And so there's a nice hump of people on the front side of the age curve, and you have a nice hump of traditional barbershoppers that have been around for a long time on the backside. And then there's what I call this valley of darkness in between. And I'll get into that, but life kind of takes over and you end up not having enough time for a hobby. So, what were some of the conclusions from that research that was done? The demographic of younger members is transient, and there's really the nature of the beast. You're not really going to change that so much, and it's kind of tough to keep them in one spot for very long. And any of you that have millennials or younger in your course will know what I'm talking about there. And unfortunately, we are an aging society. We have a lot of older guys, and when they stop singing, they stop being members. And that's not true of everybody. We have guys in our chapter that are, quite a bit older, but eventually, they age out, so to speak. So one of the things that I've said to both the society president and the district president and just about everybody who'll listen to me is that we need to track men that are kind of in this interesting middle age. The kids are grown, or at least in high school. They don't have to, drive them around to soccer practice every waking moment. Life is stable, their job is stable, they're not moving anytime soon. And with the kids being more self-sufficient, dad has time for a new hobby. And I don't mean to be, maybe mom has time for a new hobby too. So there's, but you don't see a marketing plan for middle-aged men in harmony. You've got youth in harmony, and you've got the old guys that have been here forever. And then, so my point to the society and the district is don't be surprised that you have this little bit of valley of darkness here when you have no outreach program to this age group. So we need to catch guys on the other side of the family chasm, as I call it, and remind them how much they used to sing, liked to sing when they were younger. And that can be challenging. So especially when we don't really have a organized program to outreach to this age group, you really just have to be pretty creative on how do you catch these guys. And a lot of these, there are some statistics from a few years back, and I apologize, I don't have the latest data, but you can take a look at I think the latest data I have is from 2018. And I will just say 2020 is probably, we're just going to try and forget all the data from 2020, except for the fact that everybody went down. So if you look at, for instance, Morris County, which was famous for doing this Ready, Set, Sing program, where they added 12 members in a year, they went up, which was great. Westchester added 11, but stayed the same in that period of time, which is kind of interesting. Hell's Kitchen added 9, but their total numbers went down between that year. And Bryn Maw added 8, and we also went down. So it's kind of, and I don't think people normally look at the numbers this way. I think I'm probably the only membership guy for Leadership Academy that says, hey guys, we're treading water here. Our churn rate is high, and what might we think about doing it? So even chapters that have pretty reasonable gains in membership every year are basically just treading water. And, if we look at even larger chapters, for instance, Alexandria, they went from, for these 2 years, 216 members, which is amazing, to 206 members. So they went down, and they had 26 people that did not renew. that year. So, you know, Hamilton Square, also a pretty large chapter, had 23 non-renewers. Dundalk, another huge chapter, had 20 people not renew. Philadelphia, Manhattan also. So we need to also think about retention as well as attracting new members. So it's easier to probably keep the members that you have than try and recruit new members, but it's quite, and I've looked at the numbers year and year and year and year, and it's absolutely the same. I would say the only thing for 2020 that really changed is we had a lot of, I call them never Zoomers. And unless they can sing in person, they just don't get the same enjoyment out of meeting on a Zoom enjoyment out of meeting on Zoom. And hey, I get that. And yes, if you're incredibly IT oriented like myself or Rob France or some other guys that could manage to figure out Jam Kazam or Jamulus or one of these other things, and have IT interventions with your members to get their, IT setup working so that people can actually sing simultaneously with relatively low latency. It's going to be hard. I tried to do that with my quartet and I couldn't do it. Shy of, all right, I'm going to put together a computer. I'm going to come home to your home. I'm going to redo all your infrastructure so that we can sing together online. And I got nowhere, because they didn't even want me coming into their homes. So here we go. Hopefully we'll just put 2020 behind us and, life will be good. So,
however, I do want to point out there is, a little hope that we have with the use of technology to help people sing. Some of the folks here from Somerset Hills or 100 Harmonizers have had great success singing together as a chorus with zero latency. Not selling it, but I'm just saying there is hope for some chapters.
There is.
I'd like to say that we actually grew our chorus by many.
Yeah. Between
Rob's help and putting us out on the parking lot and different versions of things we do on Zoom and virtual.
Yeah.
We have people meeting up with us just for virtual that are from Westchester, New York and Texas. We have projects going on that we've actually grown our chorus this year more than we have in any other year.
That's awesome.
So, I mean,
I'll vouch for that. They've got nice Zoom meetings.
Awesome.
All right, cool.
So, Tracy, how many people do you have on your typical Zoom night?
Zoom, we have between 22 and 30.
All right.
And,
it's good.
And in the parking lot, yesterday, Rob, we had 28.
Yep, I think it was 28.
Sometimes that's up to 30, 32. Yep. And we're looking to grow that. So,
yeah.
At any time. 100 also does that, and they're pretty steady too. So
when the weather was nicer, the Bryn Maw chapter was in the parking lot of the church, and I set up a whole, wide angle webcam on the folks that were there, and another webcam on the director. And so if anybody needed to join remotely, they could. But it was nice to be able to, sing in the parking lot, but sometimes the weather doesn't cooperate too well here in the Northeast. But we're definitely looking to, pick that up again, probably in March, to, when the weather's just a little bit more cooperative. So,
we have leaders out there.
And we did it. We had a couple, we had a couple guys as well, and I don't think they've actually run a chord with anybody yet, which is amazing. So let's just keep going, and we'll have some awesome ideas. I'm a very nuts and bolts kind of guy when it comes to, membership, and I want to get into, what is the normal job responsibility of your average membership guy, and what should he do on a, day-to-day basis, so to speak. And so this basically is, we have on this slide, I'm just talking about recruiting, You got to make sure that you have some efforts towards the target demographic to bring in the guys that are potentially more stable and have quite a few more singing years left in them, which would be great. In addition to any of the youth and harmony stuff. And I'm also a big believer that marketing and membership go hand in hand. And I believe we've got a marketing membership combo thing next week to talk about that. And some of the stuff I'm going to go through today will spill over into marketing because, especially when you're doing everything remote, unless you have, a nice presence and inviting website and some marketing initiatives to let people know you exist, people won't be able to find you. And retention is obviously you got to figure out how you can satisfy everyone's itch that needs to be scratched so that they can continue to want to come to rehearsals on a regular basis and meeting everybody and singing with everybody and the camaraderie and all the other aspects of why you want to join an organization like this. So it's, sometimes people focus only on recruiting and they forget that part of the job of a membership guy is to make sure that the existing members are happy as well. And then there's sort of a bridge to that, which is it's not enough just to recruit some guy and then throw them to the wolves. You got to onboard them appropriately and make sure that all of that is taken care of. So I'm going to get into some nuts and bolts there pretty soon. So in fact, hey, good lead in. Let's talk about attracting new members. Do people even know you exist? I've taken a look at websites. I've done a membership class many times here for the Mid-Atlantic District, and we just spent some time going through people's websites and to say, dude, this looks like it's straight out of the 1960s. We need to do something about that to bring your website up to snuff. Have some regular stuff on your Facebook page. Email blasts, all sorts of things that you can do. Does your website look attractive? Is it inviting? Do the people in your community know that you exist? Maybe you could, join your local chamber of commerce. That has a lot of connections to your business. Maybe you could do some, sing a national anthem at a special event for Memorial Day or Labor Day or something like that. That's important as well. Business cards. Do you even have a business card for the chapter? If you don't, probably should get one. And you probably should make sure all the members have it. And it should have the appropriate invitation for people to join you on any given night for a rehearsal. And website, contact number, blah, blah, blah. It's got to be fun. It's got to be inviting. And I can show you what some of that looks like. The year that we added a bunch of new members at Bryn Maw, we actually used direct mail. I got a mailing list of households that I could pick the age group and the zip code, and I could literally draw a line around a Google map and say, I'm interested in folks in this area, this area, this area, and this area. And it's got to be, you could filter by household income, number of years that they've owned the house, their age, and all this other kind of stuff. So you can really narrow things down. And we sent out a bunch of postcards, and I've got a couple I can show you. So in fact, let me stop sharing for a minute. Light so you can see. And who like to sing. So
You can pin Jeff's video to get a better look.
yeah, or highlight the speaker. Speaker view will get that, generally speaking. So it basically is an invitation for free singing lessons. And, did you enjoy singing when you were younger? Maybe a church choir or in school, music organization, blah, 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 blah. Come find out, come join us here. I guess that's backwards, isn't it? Is it backwards for you, or is it just
No,
backwards?
we saw it right side around.
No, it's good.
Okay.
I think you're backwards, Jeff.
I think
You're,
I'm
you're
backwards.
upside down.
Well, now that we've established that I'm backwards.
There you go.
Okay.
And now
And-
the back of the card.
And it's got a back of the card. Here you go. When, time, where, blah, 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 RSV for a good time called Jeff. The other thing that's interesting is, as a nonprofit group, you can get incredible rates on, bulk nonprofit mailing. And I'll get into the details of that.
Jeff, two quick questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could you share that postcard via an email
Yeah,
or scan? And
I'll scan it in and send it around. At the end, I'll probably have a Dropbox, and I'll put a bunch of this stuff in the Dropbox for you guys to collect up. And I'll send probably that link to Rob, and he can mail it to all the participants.
and how did you get those email, the address list again?
Well, I Googled around for people that did that.
Okay.
So there was a service. It's amazing. I was like totally blown away. I could literally have a map on my screen and draw a line around. I can either specify zip codes or little geographical areas. And, the trick actually is narrowing the list down.
Okay.
Now, if you're in a densely populated area, as we are in suburban Philadelphia, I could easily end up with 50,000 people that meet the criterion of middle-aged men in harmony. And that's too much. I don't have the budget for that. But so you really have to narrow it down to the more you can aim, the more you can target your direct mail, the easier it's going to be.
And Andrew, let me just interject. Bucks County bought such a list several years ago, and we've been maintaining that. And it's got a lot of bad addresses too that you have to strike through and all that, but you just work through it. We're about ready to buy it again because I think it's different now. Demographics change, right?
Yeah, totally.
How often do you buy a list like that, Jeff? Do you do that once or every other year? Or
We did this for a couple years. We haven't done it recently. It's just, you're always trying new things, right? So we put together a program here. It was in this particular thing, the program, we had a special website for this. It was a 6-week program. And if you, every night that they showed up, we didn't make them attend the entire, 7 to 10 p.m. rehearsal. We cut it to half that amount of time. And at the halftime show, we'd take all the new guys off into a room and we'd have a different program to talk about singing in a quartet, the history of barbershop, learning tracks and how we do that. And so we came up with 6 different programs.
oh, good.
So and we evangelized what those programs were each week, so that every week they said, oh, I want to go next week to learn all about, they're going to have one of the quartets, sing and explain that stuff and do all this craziness.
All right. And then we have one question.
How much was
Yeah.
that? I'm sorry.
So hang on a second, everyone. We have one question. How much do you pay for a list like that? Is a
Yeah,
treasure
that's what
question?
I was asking. Okay.
It was pretty reasonably cost. The biggest cost was in, to be quite honest, postage. Even at, I think it was 16 cents a card. I mean, at 16 cents, considering the cost of postage, is
Yeah.
a bargain.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But you multiply that by, it adds up. So you have to be very cognizant of your budgets.
Yeah, but you didn't say the list. How much was that?
I
to get-
forgot.
Oh,
I'll try and look it up.
Heidi, I think when Bucks County did this, it was like $100 for
Yeah, it was like
80,000 names or something like that. It's just
exactly. It was
a great deal.
exactly not more than 200 for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeff, Judy Giovanetti. Don't forget to add the women in your cards from now on.
Oh, I know, but we didn't have women back then, so you're right.
Ah,
Absolutely
okay.
correct. You're absolutely correct, Judy.
And there are ways to be able to get that list for free too. We happened to get it for free in Arlington, Virginia, and it was through the Arlington County Commerce. They keep all kinds of lists, and we were able to snag one. I guess we just sweet talked him or something. I don't know, but you may want to talk to a few people who already have the list, and sometimes they're eager to share it. So just a suggestion.
Okay. No, that's a great idea.
Did you mean Chamber of Commerce?
No, I think it's the government,
Yeah, it was the government.
city government, or
Right.
Just-
Arlington County actually sponsors us because we support all their public events. So they are very generous in sharing things with us too.
that's it.
Very funny, Simon.
Okay. So the other thing is we also did some postcards for trying to get gigs. So, and that's fine. And we also did some cards that we put in different, like, you see these racks of cards every now and then with different organizations that do stuff. And then we also send out, as long as I've got my stack of postcards here, postcards for like our shows and things like that. And, Vistaprint is amazing and it's pretty cheap. And I'll give you some hints on that. All right, I'm going to go back and share my screen.
While you're sharing the screen, can you comment on, sort of the success you've seen with the various methods? For example, you create the trifold. How many members have you gotten from the trifold or from those things, or, the email, just sort of an idea of like which ones have been, like, let's say on a percentage basis, more successful for you, Jeff?
The direct mail postcards were pretty good. The little, cards like this, not so much. But I think a lot of, things you can do are, for instance, I know Lansdale is famous for, do we have anybody from Lansdale here? No. They're famous for the yard signs at busy intersections. Singers wanted, phone number. And in some places that's going to work, especially during rush hour on a busy intersection, people are stopped waiting for their turn at the stop sign. And if it's in a particularly good location, that's going to work. In my neck of the woods, I would be hard pressed to know exactly where to put one of those because the traffic just doesn't, we don't have a lot of, where there's a lot of traffic, it's a highway. People are buzzing by at amazing rates of speed. And I don't have any budget to put it on one of the LED billboards that's on the highway. So that can be, so then you have to go for social media. Some people have had some luck with Craigslist, Facebook, Meetup. The problem with Meetup is that unless you get a large participation from your existing chorus members to say they're coming each week, your Meetup group will look undersized, right? So if only 3 guys from your chorus click on the I'm coming this week, and people are looking for a, shall we say, a quorum of people to show up for a meeting, and in this case, Zoom or otherwise, people, you won't get, I found that doesn't work too well. But if you can twist people's arms to have at least, shall we say, 10 people every week say, I'm coming on Meetup, then you might be able to get a nice critical mass going of people to say, hey, what's the hot thing on, Monday nights or Tuesday nights for singers? and you could do that. And then, of course, once you get people in the door, we talked about singers wanted yard signs. You got to make sure you have a good product. Nothing attracts good singers more than good singing. So you have to talk to your music team about that as well. And all right, let's keep going. Okay, back to nuts and bolts. And I'm going to do this, we can talk about Zooming and in person, but this was mostly based on in person. A guest walks through the door, now what? So have you got a sign-in thing? Do you have a name tag? Do you have a greeter? Do you have somebody to actually, take his phone number, his email, his name, and, the basic information so you can reach out to him afterwards? You probably need to do a vocal placement because a lot of times people have not sung barbershop before. If they have, that's another category, and you pivot based on whether they've maybe they just moved to the city and they sung with another chapter and they already know they are a bass or a lead or a tenor or baritone. But if they don't, you might want to have them go off in the corner with one of the assistant directors or director and have him try and figure out, what section that this guy should sing in. In general, if they haven't been a singer before, you probably want to put them in lead or bass, depending on their vocal range. If they happen to read music and are somewhat conciliatory to reading music and things like this, maybe baritone or tenor. Guest music. Nothing can be more frustrating to a new guest than not having access to the music on your first night. So if you're not doing it, you have to make sure it gets done. Maybe your music librarian can have a guest book that's always up to date. Just don't give them a stack of music that's like every song that you've sung for the last 20 years. Pull out the ones that are in your current repertoire and make sure that those are nicely organized, maybe even alphabetized in a nice 3-ring binder to do that. Having a guest handout. It would be really nice that the guest actually went home with something that he could be proudly saying, hey, here's my guest handout. And maybe it had a nice letter inside from the chapter president. Maybe it had a copy of the business card with the membership guy's phone number. Maybe it had a copy of a polecat or something like that in there that he could take home and listen. Maybe it's got some other instructions on, hey, would you like to listen to a learning track? Here's where we keep that stuff so that you've got some ability for him to stay engaged the next time. And the handouts don't have to be so fancy, but it is nice to know that it leaves a nice impression in a person's mind after visiting that, hey, these guys got their act together. You probably need to have a riser buddy for the guest. So if he's a new lead or a new bass, make a lead or a bass his riser buddy. And be careful. Don't just assign him to anybody. You gotta find somebody that's outgoing and friendly and helpful and courteous and kind and cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, reverent, and all those kind of things. So find somebody that's actually going to be a positive influence on this guy, to be his riser buddy, to stand next to him in the rehearsal and make sure that he can, ask a bunch of questions even during rehearsal or after rehearsal or whatever, so that he knows exactly how this whole organization is going to work. Just don't assign him to any random person, because the average barbershopper probably they're not very outgoing sometimes. So it's a challenge, and you have to find somebody like Rob France or Jeff Porter, or some people like that are incredibly helpful and cheerful and friendly and courteous kind.
How important is it that the riser buddy be someone who's a really good singer, or is that not as important?
Not as important. He should be a singer that's been in the chapter for a while, so that he's not another newbie. You don't want to have your riser buddy be another newbie. If it could be the section leader, maybe it's not the section leader, but I think it's more important to find the right personality for that riser buddy than it is the actual singing quality for that person. Just my opinion. And obviously you need to have some, something that he can walk home with to say, hey, this is great. Maybe it's a little folder that he can, keep a set of music in, he can bring with him each week. And that's his junior, guest folder that he's using for this kind of stuff. I mean, you can get these folders at Staples super cheap. And then obviously the riser buddy is going to have to do a bunch of follow-up, but don't necessarily assume that the riser buddy is going to do all the follow-up. You're the membership vice president. You have to follow this guest through the process, right? So you have to make sure that you're talking to the guys that you've assigned as riser buddies, following up on this guest. Well, how did he do last night? Oh, he's struggling. Oh, I don't think, we put him in the lead section, but I think that's too high for him. We might need to move him or something like that. So you really have to actively manage the introduction of barbershop to the guest. Unless, of course, he's been doing barbershop for the last 20 years and he already knows the drill and he just moved to the town and he just needs to pick up a new course. In which case, still get your act together, still have a good product, and still follow up with him to make sure he can come the second week and the third week. And after a while, you get to the point where you're saying, all right, so here's the audition process and blah, 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 take him along the path to becoming a member of your course.
So I guess what you're saying is develop a list of potential riser buddies so that the next time guest walks in, we got someone ready to step up to the plate.
Yeah. And obviously don't surprise him. Tell him that you as the membership guy probably know the people that have the correct skill set to be a riser buddy. So find that person, reach out to him and say, hey, can you help me out when we have a new bass? Would you be willing to do riser buddy with this guy? And here's what I would expect you to help out with. And mind you, you're going to be following up with him and the guest to make sure that everybody's happy and, catching any missing pieces along the way. But that's, the nuts and bolts about welcoming guests and making sure that you have a plan that's going to end up with a new member sooner than later. The other thing that's important, and a lot of people are, interested in doing a ready, set, sing thing, it's a pretty big initiative. The structure of your chapter meeting would change dramatically when you're trying to do a massive recruitment as opposed to a normal, shall we say, just welcoming people that found you on the web, or hey, a buddy brought me in, or one of the other members brought me in, or something like that. So the onesie twosie guests, as opposed to having a whole guest night or series of guest night that are going to be more significant. And I think you may remember when I said that when we added a lot of new members in the Bryn Maw chapter, we cut the newbie time with the chapter down to only the first half of the meeting. And then we had them go off in a separate room and, went through a program to kind of give them an indoctrination of this. And so we knew this whole, program ahead of time. We figured it out. We planned it out. We knew who was giving what, session to the newbies at the break each week. It was not a surprise. It was not impromptu. It was organized. And so you really have to be careful to be organized if you do that kind of thing. And that may affect how the director and the music vice president and the program vice president organize the chapter meeting if they want to do this. So if you've got a director that basically assumes that 100% of the time of the chapter meeting is his, you're going to have that little difficult discussion with him to say, hey guy, I need some time to do this new membership recruiting program. Here's what my plan is. Here's how I'm going to do it. Here's what I'd like to do. Get him to buy into that, and then make sure that you get that's part of the program. Now, one of the things that you have to do in order to do a bigger program like that is market that this program is going to start on a given day. It's going to end on a given day. It's going to have 6 weeks. And generally speaking, there needs to be a carrot at the end of that program. For instance, when Bryn Maw did this program, you got to sing on the finale of the spring show. So there were 2 songs that the newbies learned over 6 weeks, and they got an invitation to for themselves and their family and their friends to sit in the front rows of the auditorium for the spring show, and for the last song or 2, depending on what you decide to do, they get invited up on stage with their with the rest of the chorus, and the family gets to watch them sing and perform in a much larger group. And that's a very, 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 very rewarding thing. We even gave the guys matching blue polo shirts so that they looked like they were part of the organization, and blah blah blah. And it was really nice. The other kind of thing you can do is at the most of you have a Christmas show. You can do a similar thing. A lot of the Christmas songs are somewhat easy. Jingle bells and things like this. It can be not as daunting as learning a more difficult song. So that can be an interesting thing to do. It's how I actually joined. A friend of mine was in the chapter already, ran into my wife and said, Jeff used to like to sing. And his eyes lit up, and he said, hey, we're having this Christmas show, would you like to come sing with us? And I said, well, who doesn't like to sing Christmas songs? And so I went the first night. They decided somehow that I was a baritone. I was like, what the heck? This is not the melody. But okay, I could read music, and it was fun, and it was great. So the rest is history. But it does take some advanced planning and promotion. Oftentimes, the best promotion for these large programs like this are in your local newspaper. So in the Philadelphia area, I wouldn't necessarily say the Philadelphia Inquirer or the New York Times, but I know the Reading chapter did this one year, and the Reading Eagle is a nice local newspaper. They ran a whole series of actually, it was a featured series where they would follow some of the guys that are going through this program each week, and they would write up a little column about, hey, here's what's happening, blah 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 blah, and they had a bunch of new people that year. So it was a human interest story for the newspaper. They're always dying for some kind of new human interest story, so that's good. But again, that takes, rather than, you don't have the budget for TV ads, you may not have the budget for mass mailings, you really have to figure out how can I leverage any kind of free advertising that I can get along the way as well. So sometimes the local newspapers can be a big help to you. You also have to get, and in addition to having your director on board, that the way that the chapter meeting is going to be organized, you have to get your chapter members on board as well. You have to explain to them, oh, we're going to have this 6-week program. It's going to be la, 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 la. And you have to explain this to them so that they are not surprised on the night that this starts that, hey, this is not the chapter meeting that I'm normally used to. So you have to explain it to them as well. And you have to teach the guys how to interact with the guests when perhaps they're not used to doing that. So you can either have one of two things. They ignore the guest and they just stay in their little cliques, or they overwhelm the guest and then the guest practically is smothered. So you have to have a nice balance between being welcoming and not overwhelming. As a tool to get people to learn how to interact with a guest, there's this purple tie guy night. So make one of your members on a non-guest night the supposed guest and give him an ugly tie to wear, and he is the guy that's going to come in and pretend to be the guest so that the rest of the chapter can learn how to interact with the guest. And then sort of have a debrief at the end of the chapter meeting to say, okay, here's what went well, here's what went good, here's what went bad, just to get them used to interacting with guests in a way that you'd like them to interact.
Hey, Jeff, I got a question.
Yeah.
Our chapter, we love Ready, Set, Sing programs. I think before the pandemic hit, we were doing 3 or 4 of them every year.
Wow.
And it was super helpful. It almost became like a routine, and very similar, I think, to what you've described there. And we brought them in, let them sing on the risers, and then took them away into a separate room and gave them free singing lessons, and then bring them back. And at the end of 6 weeks, we had a little concert, a little show where friends and family showed up, and it's just awesome. And that really accounts for a lot of the growth that we've had as a chapter. And of course, we haven't done that for nearly a year. So I guess my question is, maybe you're going to cover this a little bit later, but within the pandemic, right? Any ideas, any tips and tricks on how to either recruit new members or to retain the ones we already have? And I know all about singing in cars, and I know that's been very successful. But I guess my question would be for everything else apart from that, because for lots of different reasons we're not doing that just yet.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to any ideas that you or other folks have on what you guys are doing within the pandemic to recruit and retain members.
It's a challenge. We've, on a normal night for our chapter, we would have, 35 guys, and now we're down to like maybe 20 on Zoom. And it's a lot of the guys just, I'll be back when we're singing together. And we've reached out to them. We're continually reaching out to them. One of the things that we've done as a chapter that I think is positive to do that is COVID friendly, and that is actually works with Zoom, is we've taken an opportunity to say, okay, we're going to change some of our songs. We're going to be learning new music, right? So it's almost like a harmony brigade style of learning music, where you've got learning tracks, you've got the music, you've got a rollout plan of song, one song a month for the next, few months. And then by the time that and now specifically now, this time of year, you should be making plans for, okay, we're towards the summer, we're going to be back in business again, right? So and when we're singing together, everybody hopefully should have gotten pretty far in learning how many ever songs your music team decided to throw out there during the pandemic. And that lets people kind of like new people not be intimidated by, oh my God, you guys all know these dozen songs by heart. You know, they feel like they're learning at the same time as your regular members are learning new songs, right? So it's not like I know some people, some of the guests that have dropped out of our chapter basically, were completely intimidated by the fact that they'd have to memorize all this music. But if you're all learning music at the same time, that's a good thing. So for instance, when we did that program leading up to singing on the finale of the spring show, the finale song of the spring show was a new song for everybody. So for them, learning it together with your chapter gave them a sense of, okay, I belong here. So I think that could be helpful. Now, and obviously telegraph to your existing members that don't like to sing on Zoom that we are planning to get together, and please start learning this music so that in whenever that date is, you'll be ready and you won't be completely, oh my God, I've got to learn 6 new songs in 2 months or whatever that, and maybe 6 is too much. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 3, but you should, I think, take advantage of the fact that you can use this time to update your repertoire, and then when you all get back together, you'll be fine-tuning it as opposed to learning from scratch. Because I think, with the vaccine availability coming out, big plans to try and vaccinate as many people as possible, certainly by the springtime, hopefully by May or June, almost everybody that could be vaccinated will have been vaccinated, and therefore, the craziness of COVID will be mostly behind us, I hope. So fingers crossed, that's the plan. But, you haven't been singing together for more than a year. So that's a big challenge. People are getting rusty. People need to get their vocal cords back in shape and, remember all the things that they forgot, that they've gotten lazy because Zoom has existed. So I think it's important that we have to, give them a target date to know that, all right, we've got a few new songs I got to learn, and our first rehearsal is going to be in the parking lot, maybe in March, and we're going to do these parking lot rehearsals, in March, April, May. We're going to be in person in, June and July. And our first performance might be to an outside group, might be in August or something like that. So if your chorus has not made those kind of plans already to like, how do we come out of COVID? You need to start making those plans now and start telegraphing that plan to your membership, whether they show up on Zoom or not. And if they're not showing up, have a buddy in their section or the section leader call them to say, hey, dude, this is our plan. It's great. We're going to be back together. You need to like come up to speed on this music. Here we go. Let's get back in business.
So Jeff, this is Rob. If I can interject just real quickly.
Please.
We actually did, during the president's section a couple of weeks ago, led by Doug Brown, we had a pretty good, healthy discussion that carried on after the class. I've almost got that cut and posted to the channel, but we talked about exactly this topic and about how we go through that because, and I know our course is this way, many courses are this way, where there are folks that are chomping at the bit, ready to go, when they're vaccinated, when it's safe, when it's good, when the signal is given, they're ready to go to it, right? And some are maybe more ready to do it than others, right? Just let's go, right?
Well, and that varies, right? Everyone's got a different
It
you know,
varies.
background.
We do have people, though, that are very apprehensive and very cautious, and it's not wrong. So the discussion went, and I'm not going to get into the whole thing because it was an hour long, but to just think about the intentionality of including people and providing a means, having a proviso for them to participate and to be included without putting pressure on them to, come on, you'll be okay, stuff like that, right?
Right.
We have to sort of, I think, respect people where they are. So, okay, we will include you. You'll have to be on Zoom, but we'll include you and we'll get together and you join when you're ready.
Right. Well, I think we'll be doing hybrid stuff. The parking lot things that Bryn Maw has done have been all hybrid. So if you're willing to deal with mask singing and 10-foot outdoor rehearsals, I've got a sound system, a couple webcams. I'm geeking out on that. So you have to find an appropriate geek in your organization that can set that up for you. But even once you're theoretically on the risers again and standing relatively close, everyone may not be as comfortable as everybody else. So, keeping the Zoom open. So have a laptop there for those that are remote so that you're able to they can see what they're missing and they can sing along with themselves, so to speak. Definitely a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Simon, thanks for your feedback on the Ready, Set, Sing. So I'm glad you had great success with that.
No, love it. Just wish we could do more of them. That's why I'm looking for, different ideas.
I don't know of a really good way to get Ready, Set, Sing on Zoom so much. I guess you could. You'd have to have a breakout room for the newbie guys, but it's not quite the same feeling when you can't ring a chord. Usually when there's a new guy, that first night before he leaves, you're singing a tag with him, he's posting, and the other three parts are dancing around, and it sounds awesome. And he says, "Oh my God, I can't wait to come back next week." That's the sort of one of the things that it's important to give these guys some feedback, and you can't really do that on Zoom the same way. However, sometimes and this is really outside of membership again, but membership touches all sorts of things. If the program of your Zoom meetings offer an opportunity to have guests barbershop VIPs come and give us a 20-minute little spiel and hear from a famous guy in barbershop land and share their experiences and blah blah blah. It's great to do. Maybe you've got a performance of a quartet that you particularly like and you wanted to share that. It becomes a teaching moment for the director to explain some part of the craft. Or maybe there was one of these barbershop at home things that the BHS is putting on. Has anybody, watched those barbershop at home performances? Wow. Okay. So they're all recorded on the BHS website. There's some really interesting snippets that I would think you might be able to use as fun stuff to fill out your chapter meeting each week. If you might want to take a look at those recordings, and I'll have to figure out exactly a link to that, and maybe I'll send that around with the Dropbox link to some of the materials I have afterwards, so you can take a look at that. But by the way, the BHS member site has completely and utterly changed. Oh my God, it's a hot mess right now. Sorry, did I say that out loud? But it's we'll get over it. And I'll go through that in a little bit. Let's see here. Breakout sessions, have interesting topics. Pre-planning, we kind of talked about that. Have an end game planned ahead of time. Graduation, sing on the show. or the audition to give your guest a goal. It's important to give the guest a goal to know that he can put a check in the box. We've done some Ready, Set, Sings where we've had, graduation parties, so to speak, where the family gets to come to a rehearsal. It's like a mini performance. They get recognized, they get a little certificate suitable for framing, that kind of thing. And hopefully, you can have them come back and audition to be a member of the chapter. So retention stuff. There needs to be something for everybody to keep members. And in the old days, there was this thing, this was before my times, something called the Bryn Maw Experiment, which basically I'm summarizing here, which was make sure that everybody has a certain reason why they like to come to the chapter meeting, and it might not be the same reason. So think about what those are, the demographics and needs of your members that you have today, and make sure that they can punch their ticket each week somehow. So some people just like, singing, some people like the social aspects, some people are uber competition things, some people like the outside performances, some people like quartetting, some people just like learning and being coached to be a better singer, so there have some variety in your chapter meeting to allow people that have different needs to want to retain and keep coming back each week, a reason for coming back each week. If they're not able to punch their ticket on a regular basis, you're going to start losing some members. Now, obviously, one of the tickets that people can't punch is ringing chords these days with Zoom meetings. So, I would say we've lost a few members at Bryn Mawr, but it's not like they're lost forever. They actually want to come back when we're singing together again. So, I would say probably more than average number of people that is the case. One of the things, that I'm famous for harping on membership guys is retention, right? So if someone misses a chapter meeting, does anyone email them or call them to ask about that member? And if they miss 2 in a row, you better call the guy. And if they miss 3 in a row, they're slipping away. And membership guy, don't assume somebody else is going to do this. So I know it's, again, you have to have, maybe you can assign somebody else to do it for you, but if you don't assign it to somebody else, it's your job. And if you don't have a membership VP, it's the president's job. So it's, unless he delegates that to somebody to be the, hey, whatever happened to Bob? So you really just have to not only worry about recruiting new members, but retain the members that you have. And if they do wish to stop being a member of your chapter, find out why. Do an exit interview. Did somebody piss you off? Did you not like the music? Did you not, maybe you're moving away, and so goes without saying. Maybe you're, getting too old. You can't stand on the risers for 3 hours without toppling over, whatever. Find out what the reason is why somebody basically might want to quit. And obviously try and convince them not to quit, but listen to them. Don't just preach to them. And if there's an issue that needs to be dealt with, maybe you want to take that up with your president and your director to see if something like that can be addressed, because where there's smoke, there's fire. You might have some other problem on your hand. Couple of membership nuggets I'd like to go through. Postcards, 16.7 cents. It may have gone up a little bit, but generally it's a fraction of, the cost of a normal letter today. Vista Print is always running specials. So don't ever buy a postcard on Vistaprint without getting a coupon code. And there's lots of sites that have coupon codes that you can, find that. Retail Me Not is one famous for that. And the other thing is they always entice you right after you push the buy button to say, would you like us to double your order of postcards for less than we would have offered you about 10 seconds ago? And so whenever you click buy, only buy half of what you need, because absolutely guaranteed every time you click buy, they're going to offer you a special deal to double your order, which is silly. I mean, maybe people know that by now, but anyways. Email blends, vertical response. I don't know if you knew this, but you won't get an email list from anybody. But if you have an email list that your marketing department has of patrons or friends of the course or whatever else, you can send out up to 10,000 bulk emails a month for free. You just have to prove to Vertical Response that you are a nonprofit. And, let me see if I can bring up one of those things here. Okay. Chapter. Okay. This damn thing is in the way. Go away. Here. Stop sharing for a minute. Let me bring it up. Vertical Response. Here we go. Okay, share my screen again. Okay, so
Can you magnify a little bit?
Probably. Control Shift Plus. Is that better? So Christmas Eve in my hometown. Let's see. So it's like literally you can see how many things were sent, and you can all sorts of statistics on stuff and how many clicks and bounces and rejects and blah, 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 and whatever else. So if you want to, get savvy in email, it doesn't cost anything, but you have to contact them so that you get your 10,000 email credits for free, which is pretty nice.
Am I reading that right? Sent to 21 list members and Facebook then?
Yeah.
Okay. You could use some more list members maybe.
Yeah, but I think that was just I had a new guy do this year, and perhaps he didn't quite get the hang of it.
Is this a competitor to Constant Contact and MailChimp?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they may have a similar deal with for nonprofits as well. Okay, here's one that went out to 458, 27% open, 31%.
Yeah, okay.
That one's a little bit better. I'm not sure what that one was.
No, wait, 27%.
Facilities version. That we had an email blast go to all of our retirement homes.
So when it says 458 cents and then 27% open, does that mean open meaning they opened it and they read it?
Yeah.
Or at least that they opened it?
Yeah, and 31% of those people actually clicked on the link.
Okay.
To go watch the video.
So that's not a pretty. Is that typical?
Pretty good.
Is that pretty good? 27%.
That's outstanding.
That's off the chart.
Cool. I don't know. It seems low to me. But okay.
Oh, for spam emails.
Yeah, I guess.
If if I go back to one of the other emails that we had, that this is probably more like it. Singing Valentine's from a year ago.
Okay. 12, 15%.
Christmas show. Yeah. And look at these click rates.
Yeah. Yep.
The click rate on this one,
that's
huge.
Yeah, I see that. Yep, I see that. So that's pretty stellar. Cool.
Yeah. So I guess we did, this one we sent to retirement homes. This is our larger email list. but it's like MailChimp and Constant Contact, the same thing. So please don't pay for those services. Find one that's free. They're pretty much all the same. And, you know, this is our website these days. I use it, we use GoDaddy for that. And so it's got a very simple structure for how this is. I've got a login for members, a calendar link, donate, home, hire us. It's got some nice pictures. Here you go. Listen to us, book the chorus, watch us in action, follow us on Facebook, stuff like that. Join us. This is like kind of the three questions we ask on a postcard. Did you enjoy singing in the chorus when you were at school? Maybe you're singing in a church choir. Do you find yourself singing along with music in your car? Call Jeff for a good time, blah, blah, blah. Here's where we rehearse. Here's the details on that. Donate, especially in COVID times, that's important to help support our music. And by the way, on the header of every page is the link for Zoom. So, you know, if you happen to be, even I use that link because I don't even remember the thing. We use a Google Calendar for everything that we do. So, you know, everything's listed there. You can find out more about that, you know, appropriately. Just
Jeff, back on the donate piece, not to give away any numbers or value, but do you have people do that fairly often?
Usually what people, if there's somebody that passes away that used to be a part of the organization, this page becomes very active.
Looks like I need to change my batteries. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so if you're like, you know, and usually at the funeral service or whatever, they'll say, hey, if you're interested in donating to our cause, you know, go to the Cancer Society or the Bryn Maw Mainliners or the blah, 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 things like that. And if you go to the login section, it brings up a new page. Now you all know my password. So it's, again, this, and we use a Google Drive for learning tracks and things like that. The music, the member center, okay, continue working. If you haven't logged into the new member center, you need to go do that. And you have to, the first time you do that, go to barbershop.org, click on member center, and you'll end up in this new thing here. You have to say, forgot my password. So this website is completely and utterly different than the previous member center. So once you click forgot password, it emails you a password reset link. You do that, and then, oh, banana phone, I love that. And then you're in. So now you can like go look at, yes, continue. There's documents that you can look at. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here, especially if you're the president, secretary, or treasurer, to find out more about this kind of stuff. Oops, well, it probably logged me out. But anyways, there's a bunch of stuff under the document center. And you can also change, if you're the president, secretary, treasurer, membership VP, you can add members. I don't know how many of you have added members, but it's really easy to do online. You basically start filling out the membership application with the guy's name, his email, and his date of birth. And the system magically sends him an email to fill out the rest of the application. And click, click, done, done. You just added a new member. They probably still do have the paper program for new membership, but you know, most people find that the online onboarding process with the BHS is pretty easy to do. And then the last thing is if you're,
One thing that's not working right now that I found out yesterday is that you cannot renew your membership on the new portal yet.
that's awesome.
You just go into a cluster of, circles and it doesn't work. But I've notified them about that, so hopefully they'll fix it.
Thank you.
I did preface that section a little while ago by saying the new member center is a hot mess. So, it'll probably take a month for them to like get everything working, at least to the point where it's working again. So, adding chapter leaders and things like that. There are a bunch of recorded webinars, on this site that you can, find out about how do I do this, how do I do that. It is role-based, so if you are the membership vice president, you have superpowers to do certain things. And if you're the treasurer, you have superpowers to do certain things. And if you are not, like me, because I'm just a member at large now, I have basically no superpowers whatsoever, other than to look at my own, thing. But you should obviously make sure that your contact information is up to date. That got moved. Your Facebook page and whatever other kind of social media that you might want to have, your address, your description, that got moved. So it's like, if people are searching for a chorus, either on barbershop.org or otherwise, it would be nice if the information that they found from the Barbershop Harmony Society was actually accurate for your chapter. So if it's not, please talk to somebody in your chapter to like update that. So how many people are have a relatively modern website for, their chapter website? Do we have anybody still in the Stone Age for, I'm editing HTML and, doing this stuff? Because really, it's so amazingly easy to edit these websites, either with GoDaddy or Weebly or Wix or any of these kind of things, that literally just about anybody can point and click their website and make it look modern and friendly and mobile savvy and all the other things. So speak to your marketing team or your president or whatever, and find an IT geek in your organization that maybe has some creative bones in their body that can really get your website up to snuff. I won't embarrass anybody here. In a normal session, I would go through and literally pull up every chapter's website of everybody that's in attendance here, and we do a little critique. But maybe we'll save that for next Sunday, Rob, when we have the combo meeting with the marketing and the membership guys, to like say, hey, how do we get this, your organization to look inviting and pleasant and blah, 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 blah.
That sounds like a great option. We'll make sure we write that down.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm just not even going to talk about the Member Center because it's a hot mess. And additional resources. Christian Hunter, who is now on the society board, is an amazing resource. If you don't already know Christian, he's been the district membership guy for more years than anybody can imagine. He has run a lot of successful programs, and he's pretty damn good at this. I'm a reasonable person to reach out, and basically the other thing that can be very useful is if you go to the Mid-Atlantic District website, there's a PDF that's called Who Do I Call? And it's really a really nice one-pager of emails and phone numbers of everybody that's a who's who of, who do I call when I don't know X, Y, and Z. It's really, really, really good. If you don't have a login on the MAD website, you need to get one. You can request one online. It's not the same login as barbershop.org. It's not the same login as the new member center. Yes, there are so many logins to choose from, I've lost track.
I think for a Middle Atlantic District website, it's your ID number, your membership ID number.
Yeah.
And then if you don't have a password or your dog ate your password, there's links to click to do that all on that page.
Yeah. Atlantic District. Here we
go. Mike has kept that. It's pretty funny. It's like, my dog ate my password, whatever. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
dog ate my password right there. And yeah, it's your member ID. And then once you do that, then now you can go into Docs. And okay, let's see here.
Is there Find People? It's under Find People.
Find People.
Yeah, go over to the left bar.
Oh, Find People.
And then it should be there under who do I call? Well, that's interesting. Did your login succeed? It says members login, and it doesn't look like you're logged in. Do that login again with your password. Yeah, is that password correct?
Pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, there it is now.
Yep. Now try it. Yeah. There you go. District directory.
Who do you call? Here it is.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. This is awesome.
Yeah. And it is maintained, through the years. For this year, it might not be actually up to date. There's usually a date on this. When does it say last updated?
February 16th, 2020. So it's about a year old.
Yeah, there you go. So, so someone just has to get to it, and they will.
But oftentimes you're pretty close, right?
Those names all look about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. But there's lots of other things here.
Cool.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Isn't there a toolbox? No, that's the marketing toolbox, right?
Yeah. Master calendar. No problem.
Is there a toolbox for for VPs for members, like templates for membership handouts or a handbook?
I've got a bunch of things in a Dropbox that I'll share with you guys. I went on the society website and went looking for that today. And other than the Healthy Chapter Initiative, I didn't find a thing like they have for presidents and secretaries and treasurers. So I might have to nudge Christian to say, hey, dude, since you're the big kahuna on the society board, can we get the...
Well, 1 second here. He's right here, Jeff.
Uh-oh.
Get up.
Hi, buddy. How you doing?
I only got up when you weren't saying awesome, nice thing. So no, there is no. We've talked for a while. I've worked with Steve Scott to talk about making a toolbox. Talk with Katie McDonald now about making a toolbox. I don't know if you've noticed, but the people at Harmony Hall have been running around like a one-armed paper hanger lately. So on the list of priorities, it's probably not going to be really high.
Okay.
Like Jeff, myself, because I've taught this class, Jeff and I kind of alternate each year. I also have a repository that I have up on, I think, Dropbox or Google Drive. A lot of those kind of hands-on things, they're pre-pandemic, but things like, welcome to the chapter, guest kind of handouts and those types of things, just change the logo and that kind of stuff. So I'm happy to share that as well.
All right. And I'm pretty sure I have access to that Dropbox, so I'll put a link in the email that we sent around to all the participants today as well.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So even if the society doesn't get their act together, we'll manage to at least get the Mid-Atlantic District together. Or we'll do our best. Or we'll try our best.
I've been drafting one for our chapter, so I'd be happy to share what I've developed so far too. But man, I'm so new to this compared to you guys.
It's all good. That's the whole reason that we're here, that we can share, tips and tricks. And I want to do that before our time is up. So I've got about 25 minutes left. And I just want to finish this up very quickly. This was one of my famous things when I first joined. I practically read the riot act to the entire leadership of my chapter that says, your membership program sucks rocks. Membership osmosis does not work. And that's when they made me the membership guy the next year. So you got to worry about, okay, so he passed audition. Now what? Do we let him learn everything by osmosis? No. So, okay, we got to like get the online form filled out, explain the dues options. We got to deal with uniforms, music, so you got to talk to your music librarian, your uniform guy. You got to add him to, all the email lists that you may have. You probably want to order a name badge because that's a big thing. You probably want to make that a big deal when hey, we are presenting you your official name badge at a meeting, blah, blah, blah. So make a checklist of all the things that you need to do with the new guy and make sure that he knows, that he's got his buddy still, even after he passes his audition, to help him out with this onboarding process, right? Because chances are the buddy, if he's a bass, is still going to lean on the other guy or the bass section leader to like say, hey, I'm having a problem with this song or something like that, or hey, how does that work? Or, what does the director mean when he says do this? Because I don't get that. There's a lot of, barbershop lingo and vol targets and all this other kind of stuff that have to be done. So, here we go. Work with the music team to get them up to speed. You probably want to give them a very phased approach to learning music, right? Don't just, okay, this is what happened. As soon as I passed my audition, a quartet that was looking for a baritone, the lead walked over, handed me 12 pieces of music and said, we all know these. And by the way, we're singing these two at a performance, and we need you to sing baritone on that in 3 days. It's like, holy crap. So you've got to give him, okay, learn these 3 songs first, now these 3 songs, these 3 songs, these 3 songs, whatever. Give him a staged approach to learning his music so that he can get up to speed without being overwhelmed. And if those first 3 songs were like at the beginning of a performance or at the end of a performance, he wouldn't have to get up and get down off the risers because he doesn't know that song in a performance, or he doesn't have to wait forever until he knows all 12 songs, if that's what your repertoire is, just for instance, so that he can, participate in the chorus. So give him an opportunity to crawl, walk, run. You may want to give him some opportunity to attend Harmony College East, which is pretty low cost. Make sure his buddy is still engaged. You might want to invite him to a board meeting just so he can see what the inner workings of the chapter are. And then here, this is really awesome. Assign him a new easy job, just like a one-off job. And then make him barbershop of the month after he successfully completes that job. So then he gets to like lead the chorus and keep the whole world singing at the end of the night or something like that. Give him a giant attaboy as a new barbershop or as a new member of your chapter. It'll go a long way to keeping that guy happy, 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 joy, 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 productive member going forward. And by the way, you'll see what he can do. He'll learn everybody's name by doing that, especially if it's a job for like, hey, I got to collect tickets or something like that, or just something goofy. Just, make him feel like he's a part of the organization. Okay, so we have special challenges in 2021. Some guys hate Zoom. I call them never Zoomers, and they dropped out. Most of them, I believe, will return. But you have to, let them know that you're going to restart, and you have to give them a goal of, hey, you need to be ready to be singing in a performance on this date. This is our first gig. So be ready, buddy, because we've got 3 new songs that we introduced, and, make sure that you're coming up to speed, and hey, we're going to do parking lot stuff or in-car stuff or whatever, semi in-person stuff that you have planned in the spring to get people sort of onboarded again. You know, because it's going to take a few months, maybe 2 or 3 months, maybe even more, to get everybody back up to speed. It's just not going to be a flip the switch and magically you're going to be like you were a year ago.
Right. And actually, we talked about this VP of music a little bit. Our voices are, you know, we're not used to singing, right?
Exactly. So your vocal cords are like any other muscle. It's got a little bit of atrophy after not singing for quite some time. And now that you kind of decided when you think you're going to be back in business, have your marketing guy focus on, okay, what gigs are we going to do? What shows are we going to do? You know, start the marketing team to get back in business as well and start promoting the fact that you're going to be doing that. A lot of the calendars for, I know we do a bunch of retirement homes and retirement communities at Bryn Maw throughout the year, or summer park series or things like that. You know, their planning calendars are way in advance. So just reach out to them and say, hey, pencil us in for a date sometime this fall, you know, and basically we want to get you to the point where you're making money again so you can get back to your normal job of, you know, running your chapter. And pretty much you've been revenue-less for the last year. So that's a problem. So let's make an honest plan to get back in business. And
what does 2H mean? Pencil hardness? What?
No, second half. It's a financial thing, Steve. Sorry.
That's funny. It's like Q1, Q2. It's like
yeah,
H1 and H2.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2H.
It's usually 2H, but okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So let's, I think, just spend the last 15 or so minutes going over, brainstorming things that might work, what might not work, questions and answers and things like that. We've stopped along the way a little bit, but I just want to make sure that we have an opportunity to dive a little bit deeper if you have some issues or concerns or suggestions for the group. So I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to open it up.
Okay. Hey, Jeff, this is... Hi, Jeff. Steve Pepper. Can I go first? Questions?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So a lot of this has been great on what we used to do when it's in person. New guys, riser buddies, and getting guys, and that's all fabulous. But in these Zoom times, I'm going through, on the suggestion of David, our president, hey, why don't you start up the Craigslist, which I had been running and hadn't been running in a while. Started up, got a new guy interested, invited him to Zoom. So every new person is an individual and they have different interests. This guy is gung-ho and ready to go, and hey, send me some music and I'm ready to learn. So I don't know if there's one clear-cut new member that fits all the box. I think every new guy has to be handled on an individual basis. They have different needs. So I just want to, it's difficult to put them into one box and say, this is how you handle all new members.
I know. And that's your job as membership VP has to be to shuck and jive with whatever that new member needs, because a new member might have already been singing barbershop and he's just finding a new chapter. Some guy may be completely cold to barbershop, and he doesn't know the first thing about singing balls. And then how do you teach that in a COVID thing? Maybe you need to, if you have a new guy, maybe you just need to have a special one-on-one session with the section leader and the new guy to kind of go over the basics, or, maybe just a few of you do that just so that he feels like he's not completely lost on how he's supposed to be singing here. The other thing you can do that I think is helpful. And we kind of did that because I know a lot of you recorded some songs for like the Christmas period, did like Christmas show recording and things like that. Just have, and I'm not saying you have to go all Hershey here, where you have to turn in recordings every stinking week to your section leader, but take a snippet of a song and have somebody record that and then have them send it in to the section leader to say, hey, how am I doing, coach? And then get some feedback either from the director or the section leader to say, hey, here's some things you could be working on while we're getting back up to speed. A private vocal instruction kind of thing is definitely can be done one-on-one, not too bad with Zoom. We've actually done auditions in Zoom because it's just the guy singing right there and everybody listening to the one guy that is on the audition team. And your auditions might be different in different chapters. Generally, we have the guys sing with a full mix, kind of in the background. We still have to hear the person's voice, but you pick an appropriate song. Sometimes it's dictated, sometimes it's the singer's choice. You say, okay, here's what I'm going to sing for my audition. The director, the section leader, and maybe one other is there, assistant director maybe, and they're listening to the guy sing along with a mix that he's playing on his side, so it's in sync as he's singing it. But you could do that with a regular members on it or other new members on a regular basis, just to say, here's a snippet of this song that I'm working on. What I know when we did our recording of Christmas Eve in our own town, all of the recordings went to the section leaders, and then the section leader sent to me to like kind of merge them all together. And, there was some valuable feedback given to say, hey, try again, or hey, can you work on this? Or Jeff, can you fix this one for this guy? So depending on the complexity of that. Who's next?
And Jeff, just to cap that off, when you do that kind of work, that's easy to work in Melodyne or Audacity or whatever. So is Melodyne a free tool, or are you using the free version?
Melodyne is not a free version.
You had to buy it.
It's a purchase.
And the
Melodyne, they have an inexpensive $99 product that is only monophonic, or shall we say single voice.
Got it.
They have a more expensive version that is polyphonic. Believe it or not, it's totally crazy what it can do. I mean, I can get entrances and sync of, anyways.
Yeah. So the point, just and the small thing, if there are folks that haven't heard it, the Melodyne actually helps us also with pitch correction, which sometimes we need.
Yeah.
Sometimes more with the leads.
I need a lot of pitch correction.
A
lot of pitch correction.
If you're a scoopy guy, you can fix the scoopy. If
you can also take vibrato.
Warbly guy, it can fix the warble. Right. If you're constantly a half a step under, it can fix that.
Yep. It's not meant to be a tech thing, but I wanted to just sort of say that those are some of the tools, because in a COVID world, this is kind of our reality.
But it's not free. Audacity is free, which is great, but it can't do all the fancy things that Melodyne does.
Yeah, but you can't. When we're singing in person, we sing that same broken way. So
but sometimes it's easier to sing when you can hear what you're singing with.
Yeah, I mean, we've used our learning tracks and have produced all our stuff, and from quartets all the way through to the full chorus. And if you spend the time, you could do miracles in Audacity. I mean, there is G-snap, which is a pitch correction effect, and you could punch in, and if a guys can't sing, they just they don't know that they're not singing. There's a video of them singing.
That's right.
I mean, it's not, or if they sang a bad phrase, if you got 30 guys, you don't need every phrase.
You just have to choose right. Yep.
So some things ended up on the cutting room floor, so to speak.
Yeah, and we in Westchester have not, in fact, the section leaders nor the director have ever heard the submissions. They only hear the final products. I'm the only one that hears the submissions.
Wow.
So it's a very private thing, which I think has helped guys collaborate, be involved, because they don't have to fear that I'm passing judgment.
Right.
I have no music direction role in the chorus. So.
And you'll take that to your grave, right?
Absolutely. Nobody knows who's singing, who's not singing.
That's good. Good stuff.
Jeff, for those programs that are not free, can you give us an idea of the price range?
Yeah.
Like $500.
Yeah.
Sorry, I asked.
Some of them ain't cheap.
And just so you know, the
single voice version of Melodyne is $100, so that's not too bad. You want the all singing, all dancing version, more expensive.
And all the software that you pay for, it's really hard to learn in general. The most of the free software, the learning curve is low, and there's a lot of help out there in YouTube. So it's another argument not to spend too much money.
That's
and then
true.
when it's all over, what are you going to do with your massive investment in software? So
So I want to interject just two things. I want to just bring that back. So, so from a VP of membership standpoint, and this has been a great session so far. I think it's been tremendous, to the limit that it can be. It's not in person. Usually we like to be in person. Have our donuts for breakfast or whatever, and have a nice lunch. But unfortunately, we didn't have that today. Unless you have that in your kitchen, by the way, feel free. But right. But these kinds of connecting points, it'd be very easy for us to do a periodic kind of like a VP of membership roundtable. Would it be helpful to talk, not a leadership academy or training or content like we've seen here, but a sort of a touchback, like in another, say, a couple, 3 months or something like that? Would anybody be open to doing that kind of a thing? Yeah. Just sort of comparing notes and all that. And then the second thing, based on the last about 8 minutes we were talking about, I kind of introduced it, the Melodyne and all that kind of stuff, and Audacity. Would it be helpful to have a different technical session of how to use those tools, and would people like that too? All right, cool.
Yes.
I can definitely do that.
All right.
I mean,
Melodyne. Rob, I think that'd be great. I mean, like I tried Audacity once, and okay, it's hard. I'm going to move on. Like we're talking about video and stuff, right? I think it's, if a chapter each has more than, like one person that knows how to do this stuff, right? It shares the load. So for example, I have Camtasia. I don't know if it's better or worse than anything else, but, so whatever the tool is, a lot of them have a very similar UI on how they do things.
Yep.
And I think a session, it may be worthwhile to have sessions like on both those things. One is like,
I think absolutely. Like there could be a session on Camtasia, there's one on Audacity, one on Melodyne, one on, right? So all of that, I think so. All right, good.
Yeah. And not to fill it up, but even if there's just one on audio processing and one on one of the video processors. So thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Good idea. Thank you for that. So back to membership and Q&A. Sorry.
Maybe a session on, say, GoDaddy web design or Weebly web design or Wix web design or something like that. Because each one of those has got a little bit different user interface, different capabilities. I know, and I'm already on redesigning the Mainliners website 3 or 4 times in GoDaddy because the whole thing changes every stinking year. And
that's funny.
They all of a sudden, the old one doesn't work anymore, and I have to redo everything.
Hey, Jeff, I'm glad you mentioned that. Rob, we have Groupanizer, right? Because we have it. And so that's the website we use.
Not the only
I think some of us dropped off. Is anybody using the Groupanizer function for web, for public web? All right, it's just us. And that's okay, Rob. We can talk about that.
I'm in a group that once used it, and we're not on it anymore.
It's still being used, so it's like, it's probably worth having a session on that as well.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. All right. So that's great. Great stuff. Are there any other questions for membership? VP of membership, that job, how you do it, how you interface with the other VPs in your chapter, those kinds of ideas. Have we touched on all the topics?
What did we miss? Did you get some good notes? Have you got your nuts and bolts down? The stuff you have to do? All right, good.
So if I could interject then, if you wouldn't mind, Jeff, if I've had this on my mind for some time about this. I was chapter president for Bucks County for about 4 years or so, and I've been in and about leadership organizations, leadership positions in the chapter from time to time. And one of the things, though, that became very apparent to me, and I think we touched on it a little bit, but I just want to highlight it, right, is the interplay between VP of membership and VP of marketing. There was a bullet point, and we did cover that, so it's not in absentia, but there's a partnership, and it's a closer collaboration than maybe we might think or consider, because we need to do a couple of things. As membership guys, I think that VP of membership is a very supportive function to support the members and what the members like to do. We are an organization that likes to support every aspect of male barbershop harmony singing in 4-part close harmony, right? There's a lot to that, right? And there's a lot of support function there, but there's also marketing and getting the message out through the marketing arm about, hey, listen, we're an organization and we love to have men or women or whatever. I mean, everyone, y'all come and sing with us and market that message, as well as VP of marketing covers things like, hey, we have a chorus, and by the way, we perform, for hire. And so, we have product we can sell you that we'd like to enrich your life, but we'd also like to enrich your life in singing. So that, I think that if in the chapter board, there's a lot of synergy between and symbiosis between VP of membership and VP of marketing. You two should be connected at the hip and bring along the music guy, because, by the way, we have to use some of his music to make that happen, right? So those discussions, that it would be good if you had maybe not board level meetings together, but certainly talk amongst the two of you and come up with plans and come up with great things that help support the membership.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, you got to have a good product. So part of that is making sure that people know you exist. In order to attract new members, you need to, get the word out that you exist, and, let some of the, word of mouth say, oh, those guys are great. Oh, did you hear them sing at 4th of July and blah, 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 or whatever. It's, you got to do that. And then, the more you're known in your community, the more opportunity you're going to have for new members. And then once you find a new member and he has expressed an interest, he's going to look you up on the web. And if your website looks ugly, he's not coming. And if it does look inviting, he's going to come. And then if the product that he hears when he comes to your first rehearsal is not pleasant, he's not going to stay. So there's really many, many, many facets that go into the membership role, and you kind of have to touch everything, unfortunately. And yes, we will get, we're going to make a Dropbox for all the stuff that we talked about today, so that I'll include Christian's things, my stuff, the slide deck that I had today, and whatever else I can think of that I've got, the postcards, I'll scan them in, stuff like that.
Cool.
So I appreciate everyone's time today. And here we are, right on.
How will we access the recording? How will we access the recording? Because I missed
the recording. So Chris, what I've been doing is recording these sessions, of course, as you know, and then I go back in and trim some things out and whatnot, and pretty them up, put headers and tailors on them and stuff. So it will take me a little bit to do that. So these will be posted up in the. I have a chapter here. Let me show it. A chapter, leadership training thing website here. Can you see my screen there?
Wow, look at that.
It's Zoom, right? So
The Library
hang
of
on. So
Congress.
if we go to YouTube, actually that's in Dublin.
Wow.
That's the library in Dublin. So if you go to YouTube and you search MAD Chapter Leadership Training, got it. Here it is. Here's our website, our YouTube channel. And you can see I've already got the MAD LA, music and performance and chapter president part A. I have part B almost done. I'll probably post that up tonight or tomorrow when I get that finished. And then last week's things will be posted. This week's things will be posted. And actually my goal here is there's going to be linkages here to the documentation. It'll be one location for all of the documents, document repository. So I just have to create that and get the links to it and put it in here. So that's, I think, what I'd prefer, Jeff, to put that somewhere. So it's
I love that. A good idea
for everything. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. So they'll be available, Chris, for sure. Cool. Awesome.
Okay. Is that is that going to become a channel we can subscribe to, or is it part of the bigger channel? Or you just...
I hope you do, and click the little bell so that you get notified when things are posted. Absolutely.
Okay.
Right. So my other chapter,
Where have I heard that
the Sound Guy Hangout, that's where we do that. So.
Don't hold your breath on the million subscribers, though.
Yeah, right. Probably I'm not that interesting. So, anyway, thank you. Yes, good session.
All right, guys.
For the good of the order.
Thank you.
Thanks. Keep the whole world singing.
Great job, Jeff. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Great program.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks so much for putting this on.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
I'll follow the sun.